Chucky premiered last night on Sci-Fi at 10 Eastern. Death by Misadventure was the title of the pilot episode. This by creator, writer, director Don Mancini, ladies and gentlemen, of the original Child's Play 1, 2, 3, and a couple of the others. This man's career has basically been Chucky-centric. Most of the projects that he's done have been centered around Chucky. Not a bad thing, because this premiere knocked it out of the park, which for me, saying that about a Sci-Fi Channel show is unheard of. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this review of the premiere of Chucky. So we meet the main character, Jake, who's at a yard sale in his neighborhood, and he is a collector of dolls. As we find out later, he's kind of making a sculpture based on his collection that he has acquired. And he sees Chucky sitting there on a table, and it's kind of funny because he's so out of place. And as we see in this clip, it's like, where does he come from? Well, there's this woman in red that auspiciously kind of walks by, and I guess we're led to believe that she's the one that put him there, because he's on a table, really odd placing, right next to a butcher block of knives, kitchen knives. And when Jake buys the doll from the lady running the yard sale, she looks down and she remarks, "Oh, somebody took the butcher knife." Well, I wonder who. So Jake has purchased this doll. He's on his way home, and he's listening to this podcast called Hack and Slash, which is hosted by a kid from his school named Devin, who we find out that our character Jake has a crush on, which, like I said, going in, I was a little bit hesitant what they were going to do with this dynamic of having a gay teenager, and if they were going to make that the sole purpose of his identity in the show, which we know with the identity politics thing, this is so prevalent. But it was done very well, and it seemed very natural to the plot and the writing of the show. And I credit Mancini and his staff for that, because they really took care with this episode. And for added context, Hackensack, New Jersey is the home of Charles Lee Ray. He made his way into New York City, but his home was in New Jersey, and there's been a slew of murders and horrible things that have happened there, dating back to 1965, when Charles Lee Ray murdered his parents in their home. So Jake gets the Chucky doll back to his room, and then we see he's got this sculpture made out of other doll parts, and he's going to try to disassemble Chucky, and he can't pull his head off, but you get these weird interaction with the cat and the doll. Like, Chucky doesn't really move, the cat rubs all over him, and you see his pupils dilate, he's pissed. So we get this, and it's kind of foreshadowing for what's going to happen to Mr. Binks, which makes me sad because I love cats. But then his dad enters, and his dad is an alcoholic. He's running a struggling business. It's a oil change, quick lube business. And we find out that Jake's mother had died in a car accident, and it led his dad to have this drinking problem, which makes him more or less an abusive parent to his son, which is very sad. But it leads to the dynamic and kind of helps advance the plot. Jake's father is not very happy. His son is, quote unquote, playing with dolls and spending so much time in his room and not asking out a girl or hanging out with his friends. Now, we find out that his dad basically knows that Jake is gay, but he kind of tries to deny it and act like it's not real. Very close-minded is his dad when it comes to his son's proclivities, which at his age, he's still kind of discovering who he is. And that's what this show, the crux of this character, I believe his arc is going to be not only to deal with the doll, but kind of self-discovery, which a coming of age of sorts. But like I said, it's handled very well by the writers. It's not overbearing or too prevalent. They developed his character very well in this first episode, as we see, because his dad's brother comes over for dinner, and he is successful, wealthy. His wife, he's got a beautiful wife. Their son, Jake's cousin, is an absolute dick, Junior, and he is just mean to Jake. He's an athlete. He's popular. Has the pretty girlfriend, who we'll see she is just as mean to Jake as his cousin is, but she does it under the guise of being kind in front of others, and then it turns into a bitch. But this dinner scene, the uncle kind of tries to say, well, it's normal to be gay now, and his dad really gets upset about this.
Or vegan. Would you give it a rest?
So Aunt Bree excuses herself from the dinner table and goes upstairs to use the powder room and sneaks into Jake's room where she's looking at his sculpture, and she makes a phone call. We come to find out she's having an affair behind Uncle's back, and Chucky overhears this. He's in the closet. We were wondering because she sits down in the chair where Jake left him. He's not there, and she hears something. She thinks somebody's in the room, which is kind of odd considering there's only him and his dad that live there. Opens it up. Chucky is standing there, not where Jake left him. Totally, really, it was kind of a cool little jump. And she's sitting there leaning down, and she's looking at him when she's still on the phone. And the cat jumps out and scares the bejesus out of her. And it was a nice little jump scare sequence. So after family dinner is over, it's funny because Jake's out on the porch. He waves goodbye, and then he flips them off as they're pulling out of the driveway in their Lexus. You know, he's like, you rich fucks. But it is, and he hears something upstairs, and then, of course, we go upstairs and we find his dad is just clobbering his sculpture with a baseball bat. Just completely ruins all his son's work onto this, piece of art he's been putting together. And to him, this is art. This is kind of where Jake insulates himself away from the world, the slings and arrows of society, and the he's picked on at school, and they do a good job of making you feel for him. So after his dad leaves his room, he looks down on the floor and he finds Chucky is laying there on the floor, and he's kind of confused because how did he get down here? Did Dad throw him down here? And when he picks the doll up, he looks down on the floor and he sees a bloody chunk of hair. And as soon as I saw this, I'm like, oh, Mr. Banks. And it's the cat's hair and blood. And this kind of freaks him out. So he starts looking up online, like, how much are these dolls worth? Because at this point, it's like he wants to get rid of it. We get a scene where he's on the school bus on his way to school, and kids are laughing at him. He's got Chucky with him. The kids are laughing at him, and one throws like a pair of shorts. It lands on Chucky's head. And this kid will come into play, I believe, farther down the road in the series in season 1. And he sees Devin, who is going to be, I'm sure, his love interest in the show, or, who he's, interested in dating, whatever, what have you. So he sees him, and he sits down behind him with the doll. And Devin also runs the Hack and Slash podcast that our, character listens to. So he sits down behind him and he's getting ready to talk to him, and then his cousin sits down with him. So he's very distraught about that because, this kid obviously hates his cousin because he's, the jock and the athlete, yada, yada. So Jake gets to school, and there's this awkward moment where another student approaches him, and he's kind of beating around the bush, asking him about his cousin, who walks up, and he's like, no, thank you, I'm not interested, because the kid thought his cousin was gay. And that's when the girlfriend, Lexi, walks up and kisses him. And, of course, she starts kind of acting very patronizing towards Jake, about the doll. And, she kind of offhandedly finds out that his family's having financial problems. So she takes a picture of him with Chucky, which is going to come into play later, and she acts nice. She's, we'll loan him some money to the cousin. He's like, won't have any cash. And, it's a very, you could tell they're setting up these two to be foils to him, but they're also probably going to be fodder to Chucky at some point down the line because of the way that they treat him. So our next scene is in science class where they have to dissect frogs. Can't do it. It's afraid of blood. And, we get the other kids, of course, they're making fun of him. He's got Chucky sitting with him. And as he turns away for a second and he's dealing with some other stuff, you get Chucky dissects the frog. But the kids are making fun of him because Lexi, his cousin's girlfriend, makes a GoFundMe page for him. And it's like, help Jake and Chucky fight poverty. And the teacher takes exception to this and makes her stay after class. And this is where we get a nice little scare sequence. Jacob has his teacher hold on to Chucky until the day's over with because he doesn't want to carry him around anymore after what happened in class. So she holds on to him, but keeps Lexi after and says, we need to talk, and proceeds to, admonish her for her behavior, tell her to take the GoFundMe page down. And I really like this scene because it sets up Lexi as, as a heel, as a villain, as an antagonist for Jake, even more so than earlier. And it gives you that sense of foreboding and dread that, like, is she going to get offed already? Because you see the setup for it with the teacher. She's like, I'm going to go get the principal because she's like, well, she threatens to sue the school. She's like, my mom's the mayor. Well, she says, my mom will sue the school, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, okay, I think the principal should be in this. She goes, go ahead. She's in my mom's Pilates class. So the teacher leaves, turns the lights off in the room, closes the door. It's like, oh, this is perfect setup. Like something here is going to happen. And sure enough, Lexi's on her phone and this happens. Chucky jumps down off the counter. She gets startled, drops her phone underneath the desk in front of the classroom, and she wheels around, and lo and behold, you get that sequence where she turns, and there's the reveal of Chucky standing in front of the door, and they pan into him, and you can hear him breathing, but she can't tell that he is alive at this point. So the principal and the teacher come back, open the door, and Chucky gets knocked over, and of course they go to start admonishing her, as a tandem, and start talking about this problem. Lexi is freaked out. She's like, I gotta go, whatever, I'm done. She walks out, and she says this, and it was so funny.
I gotta stop smoking so much weed before class.
So, principal and the teacher are like, that was way easier than it should have been. Lexi leaves. Teacher's there with Chucky. She takes him over to the cabinet, locks him up in there, right? Now, you can see from his perspective, he's seeing out the little slot in the middle of the cabinet. I was kind of waiting for the scene from, I believe it was the first one, where Andy's teacher locked him in the closet, and then Chucky was in there, and he came back and killed her at the end. I remember he beat her with the ruler, and I've got this is gonna have to be an outtake. Mr. Beans, you want to have like Chucky did that other cat, Mr. Binksy? Come on, go play. Anyway, we get the sequence where he sees from inside the closet, and it's just neat, and it's gonna come back later how he gets out of there. So at this point, Kyle wants to go to this camp. It's going to cost $1,000. His dad said he couldn't do it. Earlier in the episode, he mentioned they didn't have the money to go to the camp. So Kyle is going to sell his Chucky, his good guy doll. So he's looking up online the price. He sees how much it goes for. And he's like, wow, I could probably go to camp with this money. So he lists the doll for sale and immediately gets a message saying somebody's interested in it. And can I call you? So Kyle sends him his phone number. And then we get this phone call, incoming number, and it's unknown name from Rhode Island, and starts asking these weird questions.
Is his name Chucky? Has anything weird happened lately? Have you checked his batteries?
Who is? Oh wait, no, that's got to be. Is it? Could it be? It's Andy Barkley, the original protagonist. So grown Andy is calling to check up Mr. Beans walking across my computer during another take. It's a fine looking fucking kitty. So he calls and they have this conversation. He doesn't tell him who he is, but we, the audience, we're like, the kind of questions he's asking, we know this is Andy. And then he says, wait, is somebody there? Who's there? Line goes dead. And it's like, and you get this kind of like, how did Chuck, wait a minute, Rhode Island, and they're in Hackensack, New Jersey. There's no way Chucky could have made it there already. So Jake is obviously shaken after this phone call, so he decides to do a little more research, jumps on Google and searches good guy doll violence. Now his results are very shocking to him because he sees a list of things that have supposedly happened surrounding good guy dolls, which, is obviously very unnerving considering he owns one of them. Jake then finds the headline with Andy Barkley and Chucky saying Chucky did it when Andy was 6, and he just sits back and he's like, what the hell did I get myself into? You can see the wheels turning in his head. Next morning comes and Jake's dad is talking to him as he walks downstairs. He says, I thought you were getting rid of this, and he sets Chucky on the table. He says, I found it in the bathroom last night, and Jake's face is not so surprisingly shocked by the appearance of Chucky, because last we left Chucky, he was locked in the teacher's cabinet in school in the science lab, and here he is on Jake's kitchen table first thing in the morning. So he grabs it and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it, and walks into the living room, and he remembers, you can tell he's remembering in his head the phone call and asking the question, did you check the batteries yet? So Jake sits down to check these batteries, and he pulls back the cover, and we get that reaction from him, much like we got in the very first Chucky Child's Play movie with Catherine Hicks as Andy's mom, being shocked that there was no batteries in Chucky. So Jake immediately takes Chucky right out to the garbage can, throws him in, slams the lid down, and that's it. We know that's not it. Let's be honest, it's Chucky. He got his way out of that cabinet and made his way back to the house, so you're just going to put him in a garbage can? Like that's going to end this? Onto the talent show sequence. We start with Devin playing piano. Devin runs the Hack and Slash podcast that Jake listens to. Jake has the crush on Devin. Lexi is the MC, of course, and she starts kind of playing to the crowd, and she stops on Jake and starts picking on him, and she's like, asks, well, does Devin know what you think about him? Does Devin's mom know what you think about him? As she's trying to shame him for being gay, which we see that's kind of the theme here, but it really wasn't woke at all, because these are things that really happen to kids in school, especially at that age, when they start to figure out, who they are, who they might be. Then we hear somebody from the back, a very familiar voice, turns out, pan to the crowd, and Jake looks behind him, and Chucky's sitting right there. So we get the scene where Jake picks Chucky up, holds him to his ear, and you can tell Chucky is giving him the marching orders, like basically, if you don't do what I say, I'll kill you and everybody you care about, and goes up on stage, and they do their little ventriloquist act, which is really funny, because Chucky, basically roasts all the people that make fun of Jake, and reveals a few, almost secrets about, his Aunt Bree and Lexi with her attraction to another boy who's not her boyfriend, Jake's cousin. At the end of it, the principal, they go up to kind of basically give Jake the hook, and Chucky says this.
You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. Let's go. I'm out of here.
Jake goes home, and his dad is waiting for him. Of course, he's drunk, bottle of whiskey or scotch or whatever it is he's sitting there drinking, admonishes Jake for getting suspended from school, sees he has Chucky, and of course, he punches Jake as they get into it, and he takes Chucky and slams him down on this end table, and Jake's like, I don't think you want to do that, and his dad's like, I don't want to see you, get out of my sight. Right here, this scene let you know that his dad was not making it out of this episode alive.
Give me that.
I don't think you want to
Go to your room! Go!
So the power goes out in the house as Jake's upstairs and his dad's down watching TV. He goes down to the basement, and it's a very eerie scene, of course, horror-esque. This was very prevalent. The feeling, the foreboding, the dread was there during this first episode, and it was very well established by Mancini and company to make this feel very horror movie-esque as even a TV show. So Dad's in the basement. He's going to meet his end, and who does he come face to face with in the basement? Chucky. Well, he wondered where all his liquor went because his bottle was empty before he went downstairs. Well, this is going to come into play because Chucky has drank the whole bottle. Hi, Meech. He spits or vomits the liquor back up on the floor as there's a loose wire on the ground, we see, and then electrocution. Dad is shocked and electrocuted to death in a very cool scene, which Jake comes down the stairs and witnesses, and then we get the scene with Chucky, who is on the other side of the room, as you see the flash. Chucky's here. He's got the look on his face. Flashes again. He's closer as Jake goes down to his knees, and then we get the BAM! And I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. It was so creepy because it's one of those great horror movie moments where you have it go dark, and then you see our protagonist's face, and he's crying because he's watching his dad get electrocuted, and then Chucky's right next to him with this just horrifying expression. So he's going to go stay with his uncle and aunt and his cousin now, who he's not particularly fond of. But they're going to take him in and take care of him. And he goes over to the house, and it's very contentious because of his dad's relationship with his brother and sister-in-law. So we have that conflict built in to this situation now. So Jake knows right now that there's something wrong in this situation. He knows that Chucky is not exactly what he seems from all the information he's gathered. This is nice to have an older protagonist because Andy was 6. He didn't really have the cognitive ability to figure all these things out yet, but even with the magic of plot, our teenager does. You know, he's very self-aware and smart. They made him a smart character, but not too smart. So it worked, and he's going to make Chucky talk, and he starts getting mad, doing kind of Catherine Hickson, ready to shake him, and Chucky just bitch slaps him, and he falls out of his arms, and he just stands back in horror as Chucky stands up and starts talking, and then we have, you know, the end of the episode. It was such a cool way to end this premiere episode. So Chucky basically breaks it down. He's like, what did you think I was going to do to your dad? You know, give him a hug? And he's hell-bent on punishing Lexi now. This seems to be Chucky's first major target. And, of course, we get one more F-bomb out of Chucky, which was funny this episode that they did this on Sci-Fi. And, honestly, I wasn't aware that they could drop the F-bomb on Sci-Fi. But, yeah, I really dug this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was very eerie at times. Like I said, I was watching this by myself and going like, I shouldn't have goosebumps at 41 at this, you know, at this show, which is based on the movie property, which I've been watching since I was a kid. And it hit the notes. There was just enough Easter eggs in it, and it was fun. It honestly was fun to watch a show on Sci-Fi that's based on a property like this and not have it just shredded and eviscerated and made into some garbage tier joke. So I give kudos to Dave Mancini and his staff and the crew and the actors for really putting this together well. I hope it maintains its course and keeps going like this, because if it does, it'll have staying power for at least a couple seasons. You know, I don't know how long you'd want to, you know, drag this out. If it stays this way, it can be really good. I enjoyed it. And if anybody tells you this is woke, they're lying to you and themselves, because it's not. Like I said, we had an anti-bullying message at the end of the credits. You need those kind of things because kids do get picked on. I work in a school. I see it firsthand. And not necessarily for this, but other things. So it's something that's aware in the zeitgeist. We still have physical bullies, but it's not as bad anymore. Now it's more of the cyberbullying, which, I mean, both components still exist, but one has exacerbated the other drastically. And this show is going to play into those themes, as well as the horror, the mythos of Chucky, Charles Lee Ray, and Andy Barclay. And Jennifer Tilly's going to be part of this. So yes, I enjoyed it. I recommend it. I give it my seal of approval. And fingers crossed, I hope the rest of the season maintains this course. I'm Itepwakuian. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get Batwoman. Season 3, Episode 1. If not tomorrow, Friday. I've got a very busy schedule with work and things tomorrow, so I will be working on the review tomorrow, but I might not release it till Friday. I want to try to get it out for you guys tomorrow because it's a season premiere. Tonight, be sure you tune into the program, Going Rogue. My guests will be Gothic Therapy. We'll have Writing Raven. Master of TDS will be here on hand with myself and Tony ToneDef. If today's the day I've earned it, please press that red button and subscribe. Smack the like button on the way out, share the video, and make sure you're still subscribed, not only to me, but your other favorite YouTubers as well, as we all appreciate all that you do for us. Check out the Teespring store. Link is in the description to the video and the About section of my channel, along with my quintessential subscriptions, all the channels that I think you should subscribe to, because I do too, and they're wonderful content creators. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Itepwakuian of the Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all of yous. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow. I'll catch you on the next one, and remember, it's always better to burn out than fade away. Chucky, take him home.
Heidi fucking ho. Ha ha.